It was a warm summer afternoon, the kind of day when everything feels relaxed and the sun hangs lazily in the sky. The chirping of birds mixed with the distant hum of lawnmowers, creating a peaceful soundtrack for the neighborhood. However, inside our house, the atmosphere was anything but peaceful. Tension had been building for weeks, and today it reached a breaking point. My brother Jake had always been a bit of a troublemaker. He wasn't a bad person, but his impulsive behavior often led to conflicts and misunderstandings. Over the past few months, his actions had become increasingly erratic. He skipped school, got into fights, and was constantly arguing with our parents. They had given him countless chances, hoping he would turn things around, but nothing seemed to work. This afternoon, the argument started over something small. Jake had come home late again, smelling of cigarettes and trouble. Our mom, already stressed from a long day at work, confronted him as soon as he walked through the door. "Where have you been?" she demanded, her voice filled with a mix of anger and worry. "You promised you'd be home by 5. Jake rolled his eyes, tossing his backpack onto the floor. "I was with friends, okay? It's not a big deal." "It is a big deal, Jake," our dad interjected, stepping into the hallway. "You need to start taking responsibility for your actions. We can't keep having this conversation." The argument escalated quickly. Voices were raised, accusations were hurled, and before long, it felt like the entire house was vibrating with anger. I stood in the kitchen, watching helplessly as my family imploded. Finally, my dad said the words that stunned us all. "Jake, if you can't follow the rules and respect this family, then maybe you need to find somewhere else to live." There was a moment of shocked silence. Jake's face turned pale, and for a second, he looked like a lost little boy instead of the rebellious teenager he had become. "You're kicking me out?" he asked, his voice trembling. Our dad took a deep breath, his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and resolve. "We don't want to, Jake, but we can't keep living like this. We've tried everything to help you, but you keep pushing us away. Maybe some time on your own will help you realize what you have here." Jake's expression hardened. "Fine. If that's how you feel, then I'll go. I don't need you." He stormed upstairs, and moments later we heard him rummaging through his room, packing his belongings. The air was thick with tension and disbelief. My parents stood in the hallway, looking devastated but resolute. They had made a difficult decision, and there was no turning back now. I felt a mix of emotions: anger at Jake for pushing things this far, sadness for my parents who were clearly hurting, and worry about what would happen to my brother. Despite his flaws, he was still my brother, and the thought of him out there alone was terrifying. Jake came back downstairs with a duffel bag slung over his shoulder. He didn't say a word to any of us, just walked out the door and slammed it shut behind him. The sound echoed through the house, marking the end of an era. The next few days were incredibly difficult. The house felt empty, without Jake's presence, and the tension lingered like a dark cloud. My parents tried to carry on as usual, but it was clear that they were deeply affected by what had happened. They had done what they thought was best, but that didn't make it any easier. Meanwhile, Jake was out there somewhere, trying to figure things out on his own. I couldn't stop thinking about him, where he was, what he was doing, if he was okay. I wanted to reach out, but I didn't know how. We had always had a complicated relationship, and I wasn't sure if he would even want to hear from me. A week after Jake left, I decided I couldn't wait any longer. I needed to know if he was okay. I found his friend Max's number in Jake's room and gave him a call. "Hey Max, it's me," I said when he picked up. "Have you seen Jake?" "Yeah, he's been crashing at my place," Max replied. "He's not doing great, though." My heart sank. "What do you mean?" "He's pretty upset," Max explained. "I think he misses you guys, but he doesn't want to admit it." I thanked Max for the information and hung up, feeling a renewed sense of urgency. Jake might be acting tough, but deep down, he was hurting. And as his family, we needed to be there for him, even if he didn't realize it yet. That evening, I sat down with my parents and told them what I had learned. They listened intently, their faces etched with concern. "I think we need to reach out to him," I said. "He's our family, and we can't just give up on him." My mom nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "You're right. We need to let him know that we still love him no matter what." My dad looked thoughtful, then sighed. "Okay, let's call him and see if he'll talk to us." We dialed Jake's number, and after a few rings, he picked up. There was a tense silence before he finally spoke. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice guarded. "Jake, it's us," my mom said gently. "We just want to talk." There was another pause, and then Jake sighed. "Fine. What do you want to talk about?" "We miss you," my dad said, "and we're worried about you. We know things have been tough, but we still love you and want to help you." Jake didn't say anything for a moment, and I could almost hear the walls he had built around himself starting to crack. Finally, he spoke, his voice softer than before. "I miss you guys too," he admitted, "but I don't know how to fix things." "We can figure it out together," my mom said, "but you need to come home first. We can't do this if you're out there on your own." Jake was silent again, and I held my breath, hoping he would agree. Finally, he sighed. "Okay, I'll come home." The relief that washed over us was palpable. We made arrangements for Jake to come back that evening, and I could feel the tension in the house start to dissipate. It wasn't going to be easy, but at least we were taking the first step toward healing. When Jake walked through the door that night, he looked exhausted and vulnerable. My parents hugged him tightly, and I could see the tears in their eyes. Jake hugged them back, and for a moment, it felt like everything might be okay. We sat down together and talked about what had happened. Jake apologized for his behavior, and my parents apologized for not handling things better. It was an emotional conversation, but it was necessary. We all needed to clear the air and start fresh. Over the next few weeks, things slowly began to improve. Jake still had a lot to work through, but he was making an effort. He went back to school, started seeing a counselor, and tried to mend the relationships he had damaged. It wasn't always smooth sailing, but the progress was undeniable. My parents were incredibly supportive, setting boundaries while also showing Jake that they believed in him. They attended family counseling sessions with him, and together, we worked on rebuilding the trust that had been broken. Through it all, I stood by Jake's side. Our relationship grew stronger as we navigated this difficult journey together. We talked more, shared our feelings, and supported each other in ways we hadn't before. It was a long and challenging road, but we were committed to making things better. One evening, a few months after Jake had come home, we were sitting in the backyard enjoying the cool evening air. Jake looked at me, a thoughtful expression on his face. "You know," he said, "I never realized how much I needed you guys until I almost lost you." I nodded, understanding exactly what he meant. "We're always here for you, Jake, no matter what." He smiled, a genuine smile that I hadn't seen in a long time. "Thanks. I really appreciate it." As we sat there, watching the stars come out, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. We had been through so much, but we had come out stronger on the other side. Our family wasn't perfect, but it was filled with love and support. And that, I realized, was what truly mattered. Jake's journey was far from over, but he was on the right path. With our family by his side, I knew he could overcome any obstacle. And as we continued to navigate the ups and downs of life, I felt hopeful about the future. We had faced our darkest moments and come out stronger, and that was a testament to the power of love and resilience. The experience taught us all valuable lessons about forgiveness, compassion, and the importance of sticking together, no matter how tough things get. And in the end, it was those lessons that brought us closer and helped us heal. As the years went by, Jake continued to grow and change. He found new passions and interests, made new friends, and eventually graduated from high school. He decided to go to college, a decision that made our parents incredibly proud. They had always believed in his potential, even when things were at their worst. In college, Jake thrived. He studied hard, got involved in campus activities, and made the most of his opportunities. He stayed in touch with us regularly, sharing his experiences and seeking our advice. It was clear that he had come a long way from the troubled teenager who had been kicked out of the house. My parents and I visited him often, and each time we were amazed at how much he had grown. He was becoming the person we had always known he could be, responsible, kind, and determined. It was a joy to see him succeed and find his place in the world. One summer, Jake came home with exciting news. He had been offered an internship with a prestigious company in his field of study. It was a huge opportunity, and we were all thrilled for him. "This is just the beginning," my dad said, his eyes shining with pride. "You've worked so hard, and now it's paying off." Jake smiled, looking both excited and a little nervous. "Thanks. I couldn't have done it without you guys." My mom hugged him tightly. "We're so proud of you, Jake. You've come so far." As I watched my family celebrate Jake's achievements, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction. We had been through so much, but we had come out stronger and closer than ever. It was a testament to our resilience and the power of love and support. Jake's success was a reminder that no matter how difficult things get, there is always hope. With determination, hard work, and the support of loved ones, anything is possible. And as we continued to navigate the ups and downs of life, I knew that we would always have each other. Years later, when Jake graduated from college with honors, we were all there to cheer him on. It was a moment of triumph, a celebration of everything he had achieved and the incredible journey he had been on. As we stood together, taking photos and sharing hugs, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. Our family had been through so much, but we had come out stronger and more united. And that, I realized, was the greatest gift of all. Jake's story was one of redemption, growth, and the power of family. It was a reminder that no matter how difficult things get, there is always hope. With love, support, and determination, anything is possible. And as we continued to navigate the ups and downs of life, I knew that we would always have each other, no matter what.